The darkness holds you gently, like the hush before a dream. Above, below, all around space stretches in every direction, silent and endless, like the ocean after the tide has left. There are stars, yes, scattered like memories across a vast, black sky, but they are faint, distant, quiet, tiny embers on a canvas that feels impossibly still. Your body drifts, not falling, not rising, just suspended, like a thought caught in the space between waking and sleep. There is no wind here, no ground beneath you, only the slow rhythm of your breath and the feeling that the night is watching. Somewhere ahead, a light flickers. At first, you think it's a star, but no, it doesn't twinkle like the ones you know. It pulses, softly, like the beat of a distant heart. It shines with an ancient power, fierce and steady, cutting through space as if time were made of glass. This light is brighter than 1,000,000,000,000 suns, and yet it is impossibly far, so far that its glow began its journey when Earth was still just dust swirling in a newborn solar wind. The photons it sends out have crossed billions of light years, a quiet river of light flowing through the cold silence of time. You do not move, yet you feel drawn to it, like a moth to a candle or a soul to a memory it cannot place. This is not a star. It's not even a galaxy, not in the way you understand. It is a quasar, a strange, burning echo from the very edges of the visible universe. The name itself sounds soft, almost whispered. Quasar, short for quasi-stellar radio source. But here, it means something more, a fire so intense it outshines an entire galaxy. A voice screaming across space that something beautiful and violent is happening at its heart. You float closer, though distance means little out here. It's not proximity you seek, but understanding. What could burn with such power, and for so long, across such endless black? Around you, the stars continue their quiet song. Their light is old, but this light is older. It comes from a time when galaxies were still wild, still finding their shape, still spinning and colliding like dancers learning their steps. This quasar, it is the lighthouse of a forgotten sea. It marks a place where gravity and chaos have built something that should not exist, a beacon in the dark, or not from life, but from collapse. At the center of this brilliant light, hidden behind the blinding glare, sits a black hole. Not a small one. Not the kind that forms when a single star dies. No, this is a supermassive black hole, billions of times heavier than our sun, a weight so vast that even light cannot escape its pull, and yet, somehow, it glows. How can something known for swallowing light be the source of the brightest objects in the cosmos? The answer is hidden in the space just before falling, the edge, the precipice, the threshold. As matter falls inward, dust, gas, stars, it does not disappear instantly. First, it spins, and as it spins, it heats. Friction ignites it. Magnetism twists it. The gas begins to glow with unimaginable heat, and this heat spills outward. Before the black hole can drink it in, you drift through that outer storm, a glowing ring called an accretion disk. It's like watching a whirlpool of flame, each swirl a piece of matter surrendering its form, becoming light before becoming nothing. The light you see is a last breath, a farewell glow before the end. And it shines not just in visible colors, but in X-rays, gamma rays, radio waves, a chorus of invisible voices. each one a fingerprint of the fury within. This is how the quasar shines, not because the black hole glows, but because what it consumes fights to stay in the light until the very last moment. And so the quasar blazes. For millions of years, it lights up its galaxy like a torch in the rain. Its energy shapes the stars around it, drives winds across thousands of light years, sculpts galaxies like an artist who works with radiation instead of clay. You begin to see that light is not just illumination, it is story. Every photon from the quasar is a message sent long before your species learned to walk. Each one has traveled across the deep just to brush your eye, just to whisper, I was here. And I burned, and now here you are, floating in this great nowhere, your body small, your mind wide, watching the remnants of a cosmic firestorm that ended before your planet had an ocean. You close your eyes, but still see the glow behind. Your eyelids, soft, steady, impossibly far. You wonder how many other lights are still on their way. How many stories of fire and fall are crossing the night right now, seeking eyes that can understand them. The stars around you whisper again. Not words, but a feeling, a suggestion that this light is not alone. There are others like it, scattered along the great filaments of the universe, threaded into a web too vast to grasp. And as you drift, that thought begins to take shape, that this quasar is one thread in something much larger, a glowing knot in a cosmic web woven from gravity and fire. You follow the light deeper, and somewhere far ahead you feel another flicker waiting a path toward the hidden structure of the universe itself. There is a quiet place in the heart of every galaxy, not peaceful, but silent in a way that feels final. At first glance, it seems empty. Nothing to see, nothing to hear. Just the slow swirl of stars and dust turning around a shadow. You drift closer, drawn by gravity you cannot feel, but which pulls on everything around you. This is not the kind of gravity you know on Earth. This is gravity made enormous, dense beyond imagining, so concentrated that it folds space inward like cloth, caught in a whirlpool. Here, in this invisible center, waits a sleeping monster, a black hole, not small, not young. It has waited for billions of years, silent and still, as galaxies grew around it. You cannot see it. Black holes do not shine. From the outside, that line looks like a shadow with no center, a mouth held open, but never moving. And yet, everything around it moves. Stars swing in fast orbits. Gas bends like river water around a stone. You sense the presence of the black hole, not by its form, but by its pull. It is the great anchor of the galaxy, the stillness that holds the spiral together. A supermassive black hole called Sagittarius, a asterisk, rests at the center of your cosmic home. But it sleeps. And when a black hole sleeps, it is quiet. Nothing falls in, nothing glows. The galaxy breathes, and the monster dreams. Still, a black hole's hunger never disappears. It waits. And when the conditions change, when a cloud of gas wanders too close, or a star drifts inward, the sleep ends. You see it now, not suddenly, but like a storm rising in slow motion. Matter begins to spiral inward. Gas falls toward the center, and in doing so, it forms a glowing ring. Friction turns cold particles into plasma. Magnetic fields twist and crackle. The sleeping giant wakes and begins to feed, and when it feeds, it shines. This is the paradox. You feel in your bones a thing that swallows light, becoming the source of the brightest glow in the universe. Not because the black hole itself shines, but because everything it eats burns before it is lost. You watch the accretion disk spin, a flattened circle of flame, like Saturn's rings set ablaze. It moves at speeds near light, each particle screaming with heat as it falls closer to the event horizon. Around the edges, jets erupt, not of fire, but of charged particles streaming out from the poles at nearly the speed of light. Two narrow beams shoot into space like arrows from a bow, reaching thousands of light years into the void. You feel it, a presence no longer hidden. The black hole announces itself, not with sound, but with radiation, X-rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet light. Its signature is not a roar, but a searing whisper felt across galaxies. Some black holes do this only once, burning for a short cosmic breath before returning to sleep. Near, and in doing so, they sculpt the galaxy itself. You begin to understand. These monsters are not just destroyers. They are shapers. Their energy drives out gas, slowing the birth of new stars. Their jets heat the surrounding clouds, controlling how and where galaxies grow. They are not just endings. They are part of the rhythm of becoming dot in the light. Of this truth, the fear you may have once felt dissolves. You see now that black holes are part of balance. Even the hungriest parts of the universe play a role in creating its beauty. They are not evil, they are not cruel, they are natural. A reminder that even in silence there is purpose. You look again toward the glowing disk. The matter caught in its orbit will not last. Soon it will fall inward, and then the black hole will settle once more into its great, invisible sleep. Around you, space stills. The light from the feeding fades. The hunger remains, but it quiets. Turn, stars are born, and the monster in the middle waits. You drift outward now, your thoughts pulling wider to other galaxies, other sleeping giants. You begin to wonder how many black holes lie just beyond your sight, quiet for now, but capable of igniting into light as soon as the right fuel arrives. And somewhere, in a younger, wilder galaxy, a black hole is not sleeping at all, but blazing, with light that outshines everything around it. A quasar in bloom. Light has never looked like this before. You drift quietly beside the heart of a galaxy ablaze. The stars around it flicker faintly, lost in the glow. The quasar at its center is burning, burning not like a flame, but like a memory too bright to forget. Its radiance is total, not local, not polite. It drowns everything near it in a steady brilliance, as if it is trying to push back the void, as if it refuses to let darkness speak. This one beacon outshines the entire galaxy it inhabits. One single point, brighter than hundreds of billions of stars combined. It's hard to believe, harder still to understand. How can something so small, so hidden behind its own event horizon, light up so much of the universe? You look deeper, not with eyes, but with imagination. This light is not like the warm lamp at your bedside, nor the yellow wash of the sun through trees. It's more like pressure, a roar of energy across the spectrum. Ultraviolet light, X-rays, even radio waves, all pouring outward in steady, ceaseless streams. And all of it, every flicker, is born from falling. Matter, stars, dust, gas, drawn in by gravity, spinning into the black hole's grasp, is crushed, twisted, and heated until it glows, until it screams, but not in pain. This is a kind of release, like a final burst of song before silence, a protest against vanishing. It turns out the brightest things in the universe are often the ones closest to being lost. The accretion disk around the black hole spins so fast it stretches time, not metaphorically, but literally. Time slows near it, warps and bends as matter, races toward its edge, but from where you float, you only feel stillness. Stillness wrapped in impossible light. The glow is not wild, it is focused. The particles that escape, the photons that burst outward, are shaped by the black hole's magnetic fields. They spiral, curve, and flow outward in great streams. Sometimes you can see the narrow jets of energy that shoot from the poles, twin beams, sharp and steady, piercing through intergalactic space. And yet, despite all this brilliance, a strange quiet lingers. It's not the absence of sound. Sound doesn't carry in space. It's the absence of resistance. There is nothing to interrupt the light's journey. No clouds, no wind, no water to slow it. Just space, open and vast, receiving light that's been traveling for billions of years. You wonder how long this quasar has burned. Perhaps hundreds of millions of years, longer than your species has existed, longer than your planet has known forests. It began shining long before your sky had stars you could name. But this brightness, this cosmic scream, has a cost. The energy it throws outward doesn't just dazzle, it pushes. Radiation pressure flows outward like wind. It shoves gas away, strips galaxies of the very fuel they need to make new stars. The quasar becomes its own limit, too bright, too strong. A fire so intense it starves itself. You begin to see the pattern. The brightest phase of a galaxy's life is also the one that ends its youth. The quasar shines, and in doing so, it silences the next generation of stars. That's the contradiction at the heart of this light. It reveals and erases. It gives and it takes. It's a flare that marks both climax and closure. You float in its glow. And though it is too bright to face directly, you are not afraid. Its power is not angry. It simply is. The black hole does not know you're here. It does not know it's shining. It only obeys the rules of gravity, of energy, of time. Still, you feel something emotional stir inside you. Because even if it doesn't mean to, this brightness feels like a message, a reminder that brilliance can come from collapse, that the final acts of falling can be beautiful beyond measure. You think of how much of the universe is invisible. Dark matter, dark energy, even black holes themselves. And yet, here is something you can see, because of what it devours, because of what it consumes. The light is the story of everything that didn't make it, a memory made visible, a trace of everything that once was and could no longer hold. Together and still, it shines. You feel a softness growing in the vastness around you, a kind of reverence, as if space itself bows quietly before this brilliance. The quasar pulses again, and in that flicker, you catch a glimpse of your own reflection, brief, distant, but present. You too are made of stars that once collapsed. Your bones carry the dust of ancient suns, your mind the silence of deep time, and so you float, bathed in this ghostly daylight. suspended in the gentle contradiction of a light too bright for darkness, a light born not to last, but to mark a turning point, because soon the brightness will fade, the black hole will eat all it can, the disk will thin, the fire will dim, and what will remain? You turn slowly, looking out beyond the blaze, to the great lattice of the universe, where galaxies hang like beads on invisible threads, and you wonder what pattern this light belongs to, what shape the cosmos weaves, with quasars strung like lanterns across the deep. You drift near the center of a distant galaxy, not your own, but one still young and restless. Its arms swirl unevenly, as if it's still learning how to spin in space. There is tension here, a quiet breath held tight, as though the galaxy itself knows something powerful is about to awaken. In the dense cloud at its core, stars are being born in bright flashes. Gas collides and folds in on itself. The sky here is thick with light, like fog lit from within, but your eyes, they are drawn inward, toward the very center, toward the darkness that waits there. A black hole sleeps in the middle, as so many do, its mouth invisible, its hunger ancient, yet now it stirs. Something has changed. A star has wandered too close, a rogue, perhaps nudged by another passing star, or tugged by gravity's silent pull, until it slipped past the point of no return. The star begins to fall, not like a stone dropped to the ground, but in a spiral, a dance of surrender, graceful and doomed. As it falls, the black hole does not devour it whole. No, first it pulls the star apart. Tidal forces stretch the star like soft dough. Its form elongates, then rips, until what was once a single glowing body becomes a stream of gas. Half of it flings outward, like light tossed into the dark, but the other half, it circles inward. The black hole gathers this stellar debris, folding it into a brilliant disk. This is no ordinary fire. This is a crucible of motion and heat. As the matter spins, it collides with itself. Friction builds. Atoms scream against each other. Temperatures soar to millions of degrees. You hover above it, watching this luminous spiral take shape. The accretion disk glows brighter than anything nearby, brighter than the stars that birthed it, brighter than the galaxy it calls home. The light it gives off is not soft, it's sharp, layered, complex, ultraviolet, X-ray, radio waves, each carrying a message from a place where energy is torn from matter at the very edge of existence. This is how a quasar is born, not in silence, but in fury. A quasar is not a thing, but an event, a moment when a black hole stops hiding and begins to shout with light. You listen closely to the shouting, but what you hear isn't anger, it's something more ancient, more mournful, as though the galaxy itself is calling out, not in pain, but in awe at its own transformation. The quasar glows steadily now. It outshines all the stars around it, a beacon burning from the center of chaos. But even this chaos has order. Magnetic fields spiral through the disk, channeling particles into narrow jets that erupt from the black hole's poles. These jets stretch for thousands of light years, straight and elegant, carving through the galaxy like light pierced through mist. You float alongside one of these jets. Though it looks like a beam, it is not solid. It is made of particles, electrons and protons, racing near the speed of light. Inside it, you feel no heat, only motion, the kind of motion that forgets where it came from, the kind that carries stories to corners of the universe that may never return the message. This is how quasars affect more than themselves. The light they shed, the winds they drive, the jets they throw, they reshape their galaxies, clearing out gas, changing where stars may form, sculpting the structure of what surrounds them. You drift back toward the glowing center, where the black hole still feeds, the disk still turns, the light still climbs outward. It will not last forever. Quasars are bright, but they are brief, cosmic candles burning too quickly to survive. But in their burning, they mark time, they teach, they reveal, and they leave behind echoes that scientists on distant planets will one day read like scripture, and not just the glow, but the fall that came before it. You let that understanding settle into the quiet edges of your mind, and now, in the shadow beyond the brightness, you wonder, if this light can outshine a galaxy, how bright must the galaxy itself have once been? What forces move together to shape the vast structures from which these fires emerge? You look outward again, to the filaments of stars and matter that stretch across space like gossamer threads. Something tells you that this one quasar is only a flicker in a web of distant, glowing strands. You drift back from the blaze of the quasar, letting its fierce light fade gently behind you. In its place, the darkness expands again, not empty, but spacious. A vast breadth of possibility, woven with quiet forces you cannot see. Not yet. The stars now appear again, twinkling softly across the great bowl of the sky. Galaxies hang like lanterns, suspended in slow motion, each a swirl of suns, each a story of time and transformation. But you begin to notice something else, a pattern behind the stars, an arrangement too delicate to catch at first glance, but now unfolding slowly, gently, like frost forming on glass. There are lines, threads too faint for your eyes, but not for your mind. You are beginning to see the cosmic web. This is the hidden architecture of the universe, not just stars and galaxies, but the vast skeleton of space itself. It stretches across hundreds of millions of light years, an invisible scaffolding shaped by gravity and time. And along these filaments, galaxies gather. They are not scattered at random. They form clusters, long chains, and brilliant knots, where thousands of galaxies gather like dew on a spider's silk. And at the hearts of these knots, the quasars, they shine like fire at the joints of the web. Their light marks the nodes where gravity has pulled the universe together with the patience of billions of years. You drift toward one of these filaments, a strand connecting to galactic clusters. It is not solid, it is made of gas and dark, matter of whispers and weight, stretching so far and so wide that no single galaxy can claim it. This is the bridgework of the cosmos, formed not by hands, but by the slow tug of gravity across time. The gas along these filaments glows faintly, illuminated by the echoes of ancient radiation. It is here that galaxies are born, here that stars gather their breath, here that matter flows like rivers, feeding the hearts of growing worlds. And quasars, those brilliant flares you've followed, flare up at the densest intersections, the cities of the cosmic web, where galaxies collide, merge, and collapse inward. Quasars ignite like signal fires. You realize now they are not isolated marvels. They are part of a greater design, the fiery punctuation in the sentence of creation. It's easy to forget how large the universe truly is. But as you trace this invisible lattice, you begin to feel it, not just as a measurement of distance, but as a rhythm. The universe breathes in structures, in loops and arcs, and quiet explosions of light. Even in the spaces between galaxies, where the eye sees only blackness, the web exists. Silent, massive, unseen, composed not just of matter, but of gravity, the sculptor behind the curtain. And in this web, your own galaxy is just a thread among threads, part of the great weaving. Even the earth, even your breath, is suspended in this grand, glowing net. There's something humbling in that thought, not smallness, but connectedness. You imagine yourself not as an observer, but as part of the pattern, a single mote in a spiral of spirals. And still, you are able to see it, to float above it, to sense the tapestry. The galaxies are not lonely. They orbit one another. They pull, they stretch, they form clusters, and those clusters gather into superclusters, and those into strands that wrap and curl around vast, empty voids. The voids, too, are part of the story, not mistakes, not gaps, but silence between verses, pauses that make the structure breathe. And still, at the brightest junctions, quasars burn, each one a flare revealing where the threads tie together. Scientists back on Earth use telescopes to map this web, not by seeing it directly, but by watching how light bends and changes as it travels through the structure. Like wind shaping trees, the web leaves traces in the starlight that reaches you. It bends space itself, warping time around massive intersections. And in that bending, in that warping, the map is revealed. But here, in this dreamlike drift, you don't need maps. You feel it, the soft gravitational hum beneath all things. You imagine running your fingers along the strands, like a harp, strung with light years, each string vibrating with stars and stories. This is not a cold machine. It's not random. It's not sterile. It is quiet. It is intricate. It is alive in a way that doesn't need breath to be alive. You're not lost in it. You are part of it. A brief shimmer of awareness within a pattern that began before you and will continue long after you're gone. Even your thoughts, right now, are part of the ripple, moving energy from neuron to neuron, mirroring the movement of matter along the filaments of galaxies. The cosmic web is not a background. It's the frame of the painting, the wires behind the stars. And the quasars are its candles, burning at the intersections like eyes that never blink. You drift along one filament for a while longer, watching galaxies spin like seeds caught in a current that flows, not with water, but with memory. And you begin to wonder, if the universe is structured this way, what shaped it so? What force designed the bones of space? You follow the thread forward, toward a deeper past, toward the places where light first began to stretch, wondering what messages the first quasars left behind in the glow of an ever-expanding sky. You close your eyes in the quiet of the web and open them not in place, but in time. Drifting backward, you leave the present behind like a slowly fading star. The light that surrounds you now, soft, ancient, golden white, is not new. It left its source long before your planet ever knew water, before continents drifted, before the first breath was ever drawn. You're riding a photon now. a single thread of light that began its journey billions of years ago, from a place so far away that the universe itself has stretched in the time it took to reach you. It moves without aging, without tiring, of its own. Its speed is perfect, not fast like a racing car, but fundamental, as though woven into the rules of reality itself. And yet, as you ride this light, you do feel time. You feel it peel away like layers of memory. Galaxies begin to look younger, less orderly, less settled. The web is still forming, the strands more chaotic, like a sketch instead of a painting. Quasars burn more frequently here. In this younger cosmos, they are not rare. They are the norm, wild flares lighting up young galaxies, still learning how to be galaxies. You watch one erupt from the core of a freshly formed system. Its disk is hot and wide, pulling in clouds of gas that have only just begun to cool from the Big Bang. These are primordial quasars, the first lighthouses on the cosmic sea. They shine into a universe still fogged with hydrogen, still glowing with the afterheat of its own birth, and they pierce that fog. They ionize it. They burn it away like the first sunrise burning through morning mist. You pass through this transition, a great cosmic clearing called the epoch of reionization. Before this, the universe was dark, not empty, but hidden. Light could not travel. Far it was absorbed, scattered, trapped. But then came the stars. Then came the quasars, and with them came transparency. You drift through this change slowly, watching the universe reveal itself like a face appearing behind a rising veil. The photons you follow are survivors of this great unveiling, each one a whisper from a time when light was learning how to move freely. You keep moving backward. The quasars grow fewer, the galaxies smaller, the structures simpler. Eventually, the thread of light takes you to the very edge, not the edge of space, but of time as we understand it. You find yourself near the cosmic microwave background, a soft afterglow, a radiation that comes from the time when the universe first became cool enough for light to escape. There are no quasars here, no stars yet, no black holes, only a plasma, a glowing soup of particles drifting in a newborn sea. This is the last wall. Beyond it, time folds inward, back into the singularity from which everything burst. And yet, even here, the seeds of quasars already exist in the density ripples, in the overdense pockets of matter that gravity will one day sculpt into galaxies. You realize now, every quasar you've followed, every light you've ridden, every fire that once flared came from these first uneven notes in the quiet music of creation. You are not just looking at distant light. You are looking at time itself, at memory, at the echoes of becoming dot. And the further back you go, the more luminous those echoes seem. Not brighter in the eyes, but in meaning. Remembers. It tells the story of collapse and gathering, of chaos and form, of hunger and glow. It is a voice from a younger universe that still echoes in yours. And now you return, not forward, but homeward, toward the present, carrying that voice like a lantern in your mind. You pass again through the filaments, now more complete, the galaxies more mature, the quasars fewer but still radiant, each one marking a time and place where gravity shaped fire from falling dot. Your own galaxy approaches, not grander than the others, but somehow familiar, like a room with a light always left on, And as you float quietly toward it, you realize you've been part of this story all along. Your atoms came from stars. Your warmth came from fusion. Your awareness, this moment of stillness and thought, came from a universe that once knew only noise and heat. Now it knows reflection. And you are the reflection. You turn your gaze outward once more to the oldest quasars, their light still arriving from the far corners of time, and you begin to wonder if we can still see their light. What else from the beginning is still echoing through us now? You drift, quietly now, not forward, not backward, just suspended, in a space that listens more than it speaks. Behind you, the blazing light of quasars still echoes. Before you, the emptiness stretches like a sigh held in the chest of the cosmos. But here, in this quiet middle, you begin to notice the hum. Not a sound exactly, but a texture in the silence, a pattern, subtle and patient. This is not noise. It is memory. Space, though vast and cold, remembers everything. Every photon that has ever moved, every particle that has ever collided, every burst of energy still lingers, faint and stretched, like footprints in sand, slowly filling with wind. You tune yourself to the faintest frequencies, to the leftover heat of creation, the cosmic microwave background still humming softly across the sky. It is older than galaxies, older than light from any star, a whisper from a time when the universe was still glowing with birth. And it is everywhere, no matter where you float. It surrounds you, a gentle, uniform radiation, filling every corner of space, like the echo of a lullaby long finished. But even this uniform glow has ripples, tiny variations, cooler here, warmer there, etched into the sky like fingerprints. These are the bruises of beginnings, the quiet scars left by the earliest gravitational pulls, the first decisions the universe ever made. You imagine them now as tiny seeds, planted in that soft, glowing mist, growing into galaxies, quasars, and the great cosmic web. The quasars, bright and brief as they are, hold within them these very same seeds. Their light may scream across the cosmos, but their silence is even older. Older than sound, older than structure, in a way. They are time capsules filled with clues about what space once was. Some of their light is bent by gravity. As it travels to you, a quiet distortion called gravitational lensing. Mass warps. The path bends it gently, like glass, curving the view behind it. In this bending, you see the shape of invisible things, dark matter, clusters of galaxies, whole histories you can only trace by watching how they disturb the light dot. It's like reading a story not from the ink, but from the way the page wrinkles. You drift farther into this thought, letting the stillness deepen. Radiation surrounds you like a blanket. Quasars flicker like candle flames trapped in glass jars buried in the sand. You realize now that darkness is not empty. It is full of waiting, of records, of quiet songs stretched thin by distance. The farther light travels, the more it slows. Not in speed, but in pitch. Its frequency stretches, its color reddens. This is the cosmological redshift, not just a shift in hue, but a stretching of time itself. You think of it like a violin string loosened, its tone dropping lower, its voice made older by the sheer act of distance. The photons that reach you now have aged more than stars. They've witnessed collisions, traveled past expanding galaxies, threaded through dust and magnetism without ever blinking. And in their tired arrival, they tell you stories the present no longer remembers. That's what darkness holds, not just the absence of light, but the presence of every forgotten flame. You drift toward a faint, distant source, not a quasar now, but a radio signal, steady and small, barely above the background hiss. It's not from life, not a transmission. It's the fingerprint of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. Its spin creates a faint signal, the 21-centimeter line, a thread of radio whispering about where gas once gathered, where stars were first born. This signal travels through time like smoke, threading around galaxies, slipping between filaments, marking the history of structure long before light could pierce the dark. And still, it speaks. Everything in space leaves an echo. The quasars, brilliant as they are, cast shadows to zones around them where hydrogen is stripped, where light has carved open space like a tide sweeping sand. You can measure those shadows. You can read the silence around the flame. It's strange, isn't it? How much you can know, not by what shines, but by what stops shining. You begin to see it now, a universe of echoes, of bright voices and quiet retellings. The quasars you watched earlier aren't just lights in the dark. They're punctuation. In a longer sentence, a story written in light, then echoed in radiation, then carried by silence and the darkness. It remembers all of it. Your place in it feels no smaller. In fact, it feels more intimate, as though the same quiet threads that remember the first stars are the ones that carry your thoughts. Now you breathe in the calm dot. This is not the end of light. It is the holding of light, the keeping of it, the gentle grip of space on everything that has ever moved through it. And just as you begin to settle into the comfort of this memory, you find yourself wondering if even silence remembers, then what might still live in the spaces between. You drift once more through darkness, not emptiness, but a waiting place. The stars are behind you now, and ahead, a slow whirl begins to form. It is not a star, not a planet, not a nebula dancing with light. It is something quieter and hungrier, a black hole, not the sleeping kind, not the quiet mouths waiting cold and still, but the ones that feed, the ones that transform, falling into fire. You approach gently, carefully, as if waking a great beast in mid-dream. It does not roar. It does not speak. It simply turns, not itself, but everything around it. This is not darkness alone. It is surrounded by light. You see an accretion disk, a luminous ring of matter swirling around the event horizon. It glows with heat, friction, chaos so immense that it creates the illusion of peace. Gas and dust spiral inward, drawn by gravity, and in the falling, they shine. Particles smash into each other, their speed converted into light, like stones striking sparks on metal. Except here, the metal is invisible, and the sparks stretch across the electromagnetic spectrum. This light is not gentle. It is the light of being undone, the glow of matter losing itself, molecule by molecule. In the grip of the singularity, still, it is beautiful. The closer matter gets, the faster it spins, the hotter it becomes. It moves so fast that time begins to warp, bending around the black hole like cloth around a turning wheel to an outside observer. Like you, everything near the edge slows, a final flicker, frozen in the fabric of time. You float near the disk, watching the play of light ripple outward, as if the black hole is painting with destruction. Each swirl of gas a brushstroke, each flare a fleeting masterpiece. This is not mindless hunger. It is transformation. From motion to heat, from heat to light, from light to memory, and memory, here, travels far. Quasars, you now know, are born from such feeding, when black holes consume so ferociously that their glow outshines entire galaxies. You wonder what it feels like to shine that brightly and never know it. The black hole does not see its light. It does not reflect. It does not celebrate. It simply continues, and still the beauty remains. Some disks form magnetic fields, invisible coils that twist upward and channel jets of energy. From the poles of the spinning black hole, these relativistic jets blast particles into space at nearly the speed of light, shooting far beyond the galaxy that birthed them. They carve tunnels through space, illuminating the structure of the universe like lightning tracing the sky in slow motion. Even from such violence, patterns emerge. You drift close enough now to feel the metaphor settle in your bones. How strange that falling could make something shine, that the very act of collapse could give rise to light visible across time. There is a lesson here, but it comes without judgment. The universe does not moralize. It does not call this evil, nor good. It is process. It is consequence. Matter falls. Light escapes. Then silence, but that silence is full. It carries the echo of what once was. And that echo, even when faint, is enough to build entire maps of distant worlds. Astronomers back on Earth use the glow from accretion disks to weigh the mass of black holes, to study the physics of extreme gravity, to understand how galaxies evolve. They see the flicker and follow it back to the center of everything, and still, here, where you float, you feel none of that math. You feel the motion, the rhythm, the dance of something being undone in the most luminous way. The disk turns slowly, flares briefly, then dims. A cycle, ever in motion, but always nearing its end. And as the matter thins, as the fuel runs out, the black hole returns to quiet. The light dims, the jets fade, and silence settles again. But it is not the same silence. Now it holds the memory of fire. You turn gently, drifting away from the glowing disk, letting the light fall behind you like a candle just blown out. The darkness returns, cooler now, but not empty. You carry its warmth inside you, not just from the heat of falling matter, but from the realization that even the hungriest places can create beauty in the act of taking. And as you drift into the dark once more, you begin to wonder if hunger can become light. What else might transform in the quiet between stars? You glide into a younger universe, not by stepping through time, but by following light that left before your Earth had cooled. Before oceans dreamed of tides, the galaxies here feel different, wilder, not yet settled into the spiral arms you know. They swirl like ink dropped in water, fleeting, shifting, unsure of shape. These are proto-galaxies, just learning the language of structure. Some are stretched, others compact, all of them loud with motion. They burn brightly, not with calm maturity, but with the fever of youth. You drift closer to one. It pulses with starbirth, as if the galaxy is breathing rapidly, panting from the effort of creation. Clouds of hydrogen collapse in waves, igniting into suns by the thousands. Supernova flash across the galactic disk like sparks flying off a forge. Here, Stars don't live long. They flare and fade with astonishing speed. Massive, brilliant, and doomed. These are the starburst galaxies. Galaxies that knew fire not as warmth, but as urgency, and in their cores, bright and blinding, quasars reign. You've seen them before, but now you understand their context. They are not accidents. They are chapters in the story of galaxy growth. A black hole fed by a river of gas. A feast made possible by the galaxy's own restlessness. The more the galaxy creates, the more it feeds its center. And in that feeding, a quasar ignites. You watch as the energy pours outward, jets flaring. From polar regions, winds sweeping through the disk, this light, paradoxically, begins to regulate the chaos. The quasar, born from excess, becomes the galaxy's own caretaker. Its radiation pushes gas away, slowing the birth of stars, cooling the galaxy's fever. You see the balance. Imperfect but profound creation begets hunger, and hunger limits creation. It is not a war, but a rhythm, push and pull, growth and pause, light and restraint, and all of it plays out on scales too vast for human years. Yet here, in this moment of drifting, you feel the pace settle in your bones. The galaxies flicker past like memories. Some will fade into silence. Others will merge, their chaos blending into new configurations. You watch two of them spiral toward each other, drawn by gravity's soft insistence. Their stars intermingle like dancers unsure of the next step. Gas clouds collide, black holes circle, then collide to creating gravitational waves that ripple through spacetime. For a moment, you imagine hearing them, not as sound, but as a pulse in your chest, the universe thudding like a distant drum. In these mergers, new quasars often form. The chaos feeds the center again. The center responds with light. And so the cycle continues. Galaxies burn, quasars flare, matter rearranges itself into ever more intricate patterns. It feels almost alive, not conscious, not dreaming in the way you do, but purposeful, as if each galaxy is experimenting, trying out different shapes, different rhythms, learning through fire what it means to endure. You wonder what these galaxies will become, if the ones burning now will someday settle, grow arms, cultivate planets, harbor life. You realize that some already have. Not all galaxies stay young. Some age gracefully. They slow. They spread their light thinner. Their central black holes grow quiet, fed only by the occasional wandering cloud. Their stars grow older, redder, but they shine still, steady, patient, and some, like your Milky Way, carry the memory of a wild past within a now gentle spiral. You begin to feel the passage of time not as a straight line, but as a garden. Galaxies bloom, flare, shed their petals of gas and dust, and quiet themselves into forms that nurture worlds. All of it. The calm is part of the same unfolding. Quasars, once seen as monstrous, are revealed now as midwives to the galaxies we know. They clear the path for calm. They sculpt the conditions for future stars, for planets, for oceans, for thought. You linger among these early galaxies, watching them rage and glow. They seem fearless, unconcerned with elegance, concerned only with motion, and yet, in their frenzy, they create the scaffolding of future stillness. You turn slowly, letting the ancient light fall around you. each galaxy a reminder that even chaos can lead to harmony, and as the quasars dim, as the fires of youth give way to the soft hum of maturity, you begin to ask, when galaxies quiet down, what becomes of the light they leave behind? You drift again through the dark, where stars scatter like quiet thoughts, and galaxies float like lanterns caught in a gentle tide. But tonight, your path leads not toward light, but toward force, toward motion born from radiance, toward something powerful yet invisible. You return to a quasar, but this time you do not study its glow. You listen to its breath, because quasars do not merely shine, they exhale. From their blazing centers, fierce winds erupt, not of air, but of particles, plasma and light itself. You cannot see the wind, but you feel it pass. It pushes not with pressure, but with intention. It rearranges the galaxy around it, the way a river carves the stone beneath. This is radiation pressure, light becoming wind, light with a force strong enough to move matter across hundreds of thousands of light years. You float in the path of one such wind. It is not violent, but it is not gentle either. It is steady. It is endless. It is the slow breath of a cosmic heart too hot to hold still. This wind is born, not just from the black hole itself, but from the frenzy around it, the accretion disk, the magnetic fields, the churning chaos of falling matter spinning faster and faster until it releases its energy outward. Particles are flung not inward, but away, carried by the sheer weight of radiation. This outflow slows the galaxy's rhythm. It clears away the gas that once fed starbirth, cooling the frenzy, calming the storm. It is the paradox of brightness, that too much light can lead to quiet. You glide along the wind's path, imagining the years it takes for this breath to travel. How many stars it passes, how many clouds it shapes. The wind from a quasar can reach across the galaxy, compressing some clouds, shattering others, triggering collapse in one place and dispersal in another. It is neither creation nor destruction. It is influence, and influence, as always, leaves a mark. The galaxy reshapes itself around the breath of its own center, not unlike how your body listens to the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You notice, too, that this wind is not chaotic. It follows the shape of the galaxy, weaving between arms, spiraling like thought. Some winds escape entirely, rising beyond the halo of stars into intergalactic space. Others curl inward again, cooling, slowing, returning like weather back to where it began. And so the galaxy breathes, not once, not twice, but across millions of years. Each breath shapes the future. Each wind leaves behind silence where stars once formed, or lights a fire where nothing once stirred. You wonder how many galaxies have been sculpted this way, not by collisions, but by whispers, by a wind no eye can see, but every atom feels. You drift through the remnants of one such gust, the stars behind it, older now, quieter. Gas clouds thinned, edges sharpened, a landscape not just of light, but of absence. The kind of absence that gives room for something new to begin. You think of sand dunes, shaped by invisible desert winds. Each curve, a memory of motion. Each ridge, a silent sentence written in air. So too are galaxies drawn not only by gravity, but by the push of what burns. Even the most distant galaxies carry signs of these ancient winds. Spectral lines shifted, star patterns skewed, gas pushed into shells and arcs where none should be. Astronomers call it feedback. When a quasar's outflow pushes back on the galaxy that gave it life, it is the galaxy's own heartbeat returning. As a tide, you float in this tide now, and feel a deeper truth settle in, that nothing in the universe is untouched by what came before. Not you, not stars, not even galaxies. All things are sculpted, not just by gravity, but by radiance. Not just by falling, but by the breath that follows it. And as you drift, lighter now, more open, you begin to wonder. You arrive at a silence that feels earned. After all the brightness, the roaring disks, the winds like tidal waves, the galaxies lit from their cores like fireflies caught in glass, you find yourself in the gentle hush that follows. The quasar is gone, or rather, it is quiet now. Its light has dimmed, its breath has slowed, its hunger has fallen asleep. The black hole still waits at the center, unchanged in gravity, but no longer fed by a frenzy of falling matter. Its accretion disk has thinned, the winds have stilled. What once roared now rests, folded into the rhythm of a calmer galaxy. You drift through this quiet, softly surprised by how still a place once so radiant can become. The stars here no longer race toward collapse. They orbit gently, slowly, in patterns long established. The galaxy has entered a season of maturity. This is not death, it is rest. It is the turning of a page. Even light, it seems, has a lifespan. Even brilliance dims with time, not suddenly, but gradually, the way day gives way to dusk. You float through a region where once, long ago, a jet of particles tore outward from the center. Now the path is cool, the remnants dispersed. Only a trace remains, a faint thread of warmth in the cosmic fabric. The stars remember, though their orbits still show signs of the past. Some move with slight irregularities, as if pushed long ago by the outflow of a quasar's breath. But most are settled now. They glow with a different kind of light, less fierce, more enduring. You sense the difference, and something in you softens. This galaxy is not less alive. It is simply older. It has weathered its storms and settled into a gentler kind of being. The black hole at the center still holds its immense pull, but without fuel, it becomes invisible, a ghost of gravity wrapped in velvet dark. It no longer announces its presence with light, it simply is. You realize then how much of the universe exists not in noise, but in silence, in what remains after the light has passed. Silence does not mean stillness. Even now, stars are born here, just more slowly, more quietly. Gas clouds curl into themselves, gathering softly instead of collapsing in firestorms. Planets form in the dust, their orbits long and stable. Moons drift beside them. Perhaps somewhere oceans gather and shimmer in starlight. Without the quasar's wind, the galaxy breathes in smaller sighs. You drift through this slower air, imagining what it must feel like to be a star born in the shadow of something that once roared. Perhaps the stars feel it, a kind of memory etched into the light they emit. Or perhaps they don't. Perhaps they simply shine, quiet and unknowing, like candles, unaware of the fire that came before. And yet you feel it, not in sound, but in shape. The arcs of dust, the spacing of stars, the cooled scars left by the quasar's presence. It is all still here, just quieter now. You wonder how long it will remain this way. Quasars do not return often. Once quiet, they sleep for millions, even billions of years. Some never wake again. Others might flare once more, if drawn by chance into another feast of matter. But more often, they drift into dormancy, folded into the long, slow rhythm of cosmic aging. And so too does this galaxy. It moves onward, not in brightness, but in endurance, not in chaos, but in balance. You begin to see the beauty in that, the way the universe makes room for both the blaze and the hush, for fire and for the ash it leaves behind, still warm, still meaningful. You float now toward the outer rim of the galaxy, where the stars thin out and the space between them widens. You glance back once to the core where the quasar once lived and feel no urgency, only reverence. Brightness, too, is temporary, but the quiet it leaves behind has its own kind of radiance, a softer glow, a steadier pulse. And somewhere beyond this quiet galaxy, beyond this moment of stillness, you sense another glow beginning, faint, distant, just on the edge of becoming. You drift into stillness now, but not silence, not truly, for even in the quiet, light continues to speak, not in words, but in frequencies, in wavelengths, in a language older than life and broader than any alphabet. You find yourself surrounded by messages written in light. Some of them are recent, young beams traveling for only millions of years. Others have crossed nearly the full age of the universe to find your eyes. You begin to listen. Quasars, long thought to be chaotic blazes, are also messengers. They hum in ultraviolet, they sing in X-rays, they whisper in radio waves that stretch out across space like slow exhalations. They do not speak to be heard, they shine because they must, and in shining, pressed into the surface of time, light, but it is also the storyteller. Every photon carries a memory of where it began, of what it passed through, of how long it wandered. As you float through these beams, you feel them brush against you, like soft hands trailing in water. You're not the only one listening. Far away on a blue planet, wrapped in atmosphere and hope, telescopes turn their open eyes to the sky. Astronomers gather light as though it were stardust, patiently collecting what the universe has been saying for billions of years. They map the flickers of quasars, noticing the subtle dimming, the sudden bursts, the way a quasar might blink in a rhythm only gravity understands. They split the light into spectra, bands of color beyond human sight, and in those spectra they read stories. Each dip, each shift, each bright spike tells of a journey, of gas heated to 1,000,000 degrees, of winds moving faster than any storm on Earth, of matter dancing around the edge of a black hole's mouth, too. The trained eye, a spectrum is not a blur of light, it's a sentence, sometimes a paragraph, sometimes a novel written in the ink of radiation. And you, drifting gently here, begin to see it too. You notice how ultraviolet light curves around clouds of gas, how radio waves ripple outward like echoes from a drum, how infrared whispers warm stories about the dust that veils a galaxy's heart. Light, in all its forms, tells what happened and how far it had to come to tell it. The farther the quasar, the older the tale. You are not just looking at distant galaxies. You are looking back in time, 1 billion years, 2 billion, 10. You begin to understand that astronomy is not about stars alone. It is about memory. A telescope is not just a machine for magnifying. It is a machine for remembering. And in this light, you too become a witness, a reader, a translator. You trace the absorption lines, those faint shadows that show where light has passed through ancient clouds. From them, scientists can map the invisible threads of the cosmic web. From them, you can learn how galaxies gathered, how matter flowed, how the universe shaped itself into what you see now. You think of a quasar shining from 13 billion years ago. Its light began before your sun was born, before Earth was solid, before anything breathed. And still that light arrives, unstopped, unchanged in purpose, waiting only for someone to notice. You do. You let the beams pass through you, not just as particles, but as meaning. It's easy to forget on quiet nights that the universe is full of messages, not just noise, but signal, not just brightness, but memory. You imagine a scientist sitting beneath the same stars, charting the dimmest of flickers and finding in them the shape of ancient galaxies. You imagine them whispering their findings into papers, into lectures, into the minds of students who will carry the story forward. Quasars, in this way, never truly fade. Their light becomes data. Their data becomes knowledge. Their knowledge becomes part of the great unfolding of curiosity. You float onward now, carried not by light, but by what light reveals. You remember that no message needs to be loud to be heard. Some are written slowly, over billions of years, in syllables made of fire and gravity. Some travel silently through the spaces between galaxies, until they find an eye, a mirror, a heart open enough to listen. You are listening now, and somewhere in that listening, you begin to wonder if Quasars can tell us the story of what was. Might there be something still that tells us what will be? You turn your gaze homeward, back across the stars, back across the space that stretches between galaxies, like a breath drawn too wide to hold. And there, so small you could miss it, is Earth. Blue, glowing slow in its spin, wrapped in clouds and oceans, in memory and breath, carrying forests and cities, thoughts and thunder, and you, resting, listening, drifting. From here, Earth is quieter than a whisper. It doesn't shine like a star. It doesn't roar like a quasar. But still, it glows in its own way, with warmth, with life, with the silent light of stories unfolding. You watch as it turns, one side asleep in night, the other waking into day, unaware of the fireflies glowing above it. Quasars, galaxies, the ancient embers of a universe still learning how to shine. You are part of this. You realize you have always been part of it. The atoms that make up your body, your bones, your blood, your breath, were forged in stars, shaped in galaxies where quasars once blazed. The calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your skin, they came from matter scattered by dying stars, fused in pressure, hurled into space, and gathered over eons into planets, into you. You are not a visitor here. You are a continuation, a story written in stardust, a chapter that began not at your birth, but in the collapse of stars and the winds of black holes that blew the universe into shape. Quasars didn't just light the sky, they seeded it. Their winds carried elements into the cold spaces between galaxies, elements that would later form stars, and around them, planets. And on at least one of those planets, you with your questions, you with your breath, you with your small, sleeping body made of dust and mystery. From this distance, you see yourself not as small, but as placed exactly where the story brought you, not separate from the stars, but shaped by them, not beneath the cosmos, but within it. And this brings a kind of peace, because so much of life feels like noise, the rush of days, the weight of thought, the flicker of worry. But here, in the slow drift of space, all that falls away, all that remains is the simple truth that you are part of this great burning and becoming. You are not the whole fire, but you are a spark of it. You carry the echo of quasars in the rhythms of your heart. You carry the weight of starlight in the curve of your hand. You carry the silence of the cosmos in the way your mind makes room for wonder. Even now, as you lie still, as your breath softens, you are wrapped in the same physics that bends galaxies into spirals and calls light across the void. The gravity that holds planets to stars also holds your body to the earth. The radiation that whispers across space also hums in your skin, warm and alive. You are made of the same laws that shape the orbits of moons and the spin of galaxies. And more than that, you're made of their aftermath, of creation followed by quiet, of burning followed by rest. The story of the universe is not just around you, it is in you. And this, perhaps, is the most beautiful thing of all, that after so much light, so much time, so much silence and sound, the universe made something that could notice, that could listen, that could drift through starlight, and ask what it all means. You carry that question the way a comet carries ice. It cools you, it steadies you. It reminds you that wonder is not something you must seek. It's something already written in your bones. You close your eyes, not to forget the stars, but to become part of them again in thought, to fold your breath into the rhythm of galaxies, to let the memory of quasars settle in your chest like a soft pulse. And as you sink into this knowing, into this quiet, into this dream, you wonder, almost without words, what happens to the universe when the last quasar goes dark. There is a kind of magic in the way light travels, not fast enough to catch the present, but fast enough to carry the past. It moves in silence, across impossible distances, delivering messages from moments that no longer exist. You lie here, still, and above you, the sky keeps glowing. Some of that glow left its source before your world had oceans, before your lungs knew breath. Some of it, the faintest shimmer, the gentlest hue, comes from quasars that no longer burn. They are gone now, extinguished, collapsed into silence. But their light is still traveling, still coming. A billion years later, it brushes the edges of Earth's atmosphere and softens the shadows on your pillow. You'll never see the quasar that made it, but you are touched by its farewell. This is the beauty of starlight. It survives its maker. You think of that light, born in chaos, in the spinning hunger around a black hole's heart. It burst into space as radiation and fire, as X-rays and ultraviolet song. And then it left its galaxy, left the threads of the cosmic web, left behind everything it had ever known, and it kept going, through expanding space, through dark stretches where not even galaxies live, through the quiet, cold dot, until now, until this moment, when it lands quietly on you. You are, perhaps, the first living being to witness this particular beam of light, and the last dot, because after you, it will go no farther. Absorbed, remembered, gone. This is how the universe passes notes, folded messages, tucked into beams of light, and you, tonight, are holding one. Some quasars, the ones we now see, are still burning, still alive in their faraway corners of space. But what we see is not there now. It is there then. Their ancient fire. By the time their light reaches Earth, they may have already dimmed. Their galaxies may have changed. Their stars may have aged. The quasar may have quieted, but we will not know for millions of years. We are always looking at the past, always listening to echoes. And so, when you gaze up, you are surrounded by ghosts of brightness, not haunting you, but gently reminding you that nothing luminous is ever truly gone. You close your eyes, and even in the dark behind your eyelids, you feel the light arriving. Light that took longer to reach you than any thought ever will. Light that outlived its origin. Light that comes not to be noticed, but simply because it must. This is the quiet promise of the cosmos, that even after the brightest fire fades, its warmth continues, its trace remains, its echo becomes a guide. One day, our telescopes will see the last quasar, the farthest flicker, a glimmer born just after the Big Bang, fleeing from a universe still too young to understand itself. And then there will be no new quasars, just their light reaching out from the past, and even that light will end. But not tonight. Tonight, light is still arriving, still pouring over mountaintops and rooftops, still collecting in quiet observatories, still resting in your eyes as you begin to fall into sleep. You think of time, how strange it is, how the farther away something is, the younger it appears. You can see the universe's childhood just by looking far enough. You can see quasars as they were when galaxies were wild, when stars were restless, when everything was still learning how to be something. And as you think of these things, you feel time loosen its grip. There is no hurry in the stars, no ticking clock in the quasars' glow, only patience, only unfolding, only a rhythm so slow that it cradles your breath instead of rushing it. The sky has been sending you light since before you were born, and it will keep sending long after you are gone, because this is what light does. It travels, it waits, it arrives, even if no one is there to receive it, even if it falls on frozen rocks or empty air. But tonight, you are here, you are listening, you are still, you are open enough to feel that distant, ancient gift, and you wonder, not with fear, but with softness, what will become of the universe when the light has finished its long journey, when all the brightness has arrived and only quiet remains. Will darkness take the stage again? Will silence grow deeper? Or will there be something else, a new kind of glow, a softer kind of fire? Perhaps there will be a different kind of light, one not of stars, but of memory. One that lives not in galaxies, but in minds, in dreams, in whispers passed through time. And you, drifting now in the hush between breaths, you become part of that light. You are its keeper, its witness, its next storyteller. You carry the glow forward, even as your eyes begin to close, and somewhere, beyond sleep, beyond time, a final quasar's light continues its journey, still coming, still shining, still singing.